Yo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV today. Let me welcome you to the new age of professional wrestling, as the two newest brands in sports entertainment take center stage and square it off for the first time ever to prove who is the gold standard in the wrestling business. And it is important to keep in mind that just because you may have scored the victory in the ratings numbers does not necessarily mean you had the better show. And we are here to talk about it right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching for the first time ever the Wednesday Night War Review. Let's do it. Before we really get started tonight, there's a couple of things I want you guys to keep in mind before you listen to what I'm about to tell you about the amazing night that was last night as we sat down and watched some of the best wrestling any of us has ever seen the entire year. But before we proceed, it's important for you to be honest with yourself, and it's important for me to be honest with you. And I have to come clean right off the bat and tell you, if you are not an AEW super fan, and you're not a Bullet Club mark and somebody that just automatically hates the WWE for even existing because you want to jerk off Kenny Omega for some reason, you will be honest with yourself and admit to the fact that when you watched both of these shows from bell to bell, NXT put on the better show. And that's not a slight on AEW. AEW put on a very good show. But there were a couple of mistakes made on that show. Some of the things I would have chosen to do a whole lot differently, and we'll talk about some of that. And when I look back at NXT last night, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to find a lot of things wrong with the NXT show that they presented. And that's not the fault of AEW. And where that really is coming from is a place of, I've been watching NXT for 5 years. You know, AEW we've only been accustomed to for like the last year. We know all their pay-per-views. They've planted a lot of seeds for some of the things we are going to see on AEW television. But we're more invested. If you're a fan of NXT, you're more invested. There's more of a history to draw from. You have been watching the show for years. So it makes it more special when Finn Balor shows up than it does when a Jack Swagger shows up. Add in the return of a Tommaso Ciampa. Add in a superior women's division. Both women's matches on the NXT show was superior to the AEW Women's Championship matchup. And just overall, it was a better show. You have to be honest with yourself. And the second thing I need you to remember, if you're not already hating on me already, is that Wednesday nights, starting last night and from this day forward, are really not about NXT. They're not about AEW. And what I feel is kind of getting lost, and I don't really see anybody talking about, is Wednesday nights are now and forever going to be about the legacy of Dusty Rhodes. Think about it. Dusty Rhodes is NXT. The blood of Dusty Rhodes is what fueled AEW. Making Dusty Rhodes maybe the most pivotal person in all of professional wrestling when you go back and look at it. Sure, Triple H is the figurehead and he's the guy that got NXT on its feet. He's the company man. But anybody that knows anything about NXT knows that the heart and soul of NXT lives and breathes with the legacy of Dusty Rhodes. And it couldn't be any more clear-cut with AEW, as both of his sons are the driving forces behind this company. Cody Rhodes went out there, he got his buddies together, and they wanted to give us an alternative. None of this happens without Dusty Rhodes, the great son of a plumber, which is why I'm wearing his shirt today. Every single Wednesday is paying homage and a fantastic way for all of us to remember one of the greatest of all time, the son of a plumber, the American dream, baby. Hard times. Hard times is having to watch 2 wrestling shows on one night, baby. Because it was just ridiculous. You don't want to flip back and forth. I don't want to do that. I don't want to divert my attention, so I focused everything on AEW last night. I came home from work today. I watched NXT today. And it's apples and oranges. They're very similar, yet they are very different. Some of the things I enjoyed about the AEW show, just in general. Time limits being put on matches. Fantastic. Something that needs to be implemented in all of wrestling. It allows for a lot more drama to be played out, and it can be used as a tool in storytelling. I love that. I love that the wins and losses matter. Love that when the guys are coming out, next to their name, there's their win-loss record. And your wins and your losses are going to be something that are accounted for in your future. And even when you lose, that's something that could be used as a story. And all of these things can be developed with time. It's something that's going to be very good. AEW feels a lot like WCW, didn't it? And it wasn't just because we had the voice of Tony Schiavone, which I loved hearing Schiavone back. It made it immediately feel a lot more familiar. And I liked that they were almost kind of trying to tell the story like we're picking up where we left off with WCW. They were talking and referencing a lot of old Nitro moments. And I found myself going, wow, that's cool, man. I forgot about that. Or, it just seems to make it feel more legit. It has that same gritty, kind of darker, less polished presentation, but yet still on par with what the WWE puts forth on TV, which the argument could still be made for WCW. They weren't the best as far as the wrestling was concerned, but the overall presentation was very close to what we were getting on the WWE. It was just a little bit different, and you got that same feeling echoed in the AEW show. Like I said, hearing Schiavone, man, it was just great. It took me immediately back. It was way better than having to listen to Jerry the King Lawler on Monday Night Raw. I'll tell you that. Another thing that I want to make clear is that the things that I'm going to complain about with AEW, all of these things, like I said, it's kind of unfair, and it's going to come with time. AEW is just getting started. It'll be interesting 6 months from now. That's when you're really going to get a sense of who you're going to prefer in the long run, because AEW is just getting started with their storytelling. We don't really know what to expect, which is why you kind of, like me, maybe pulled back when you see a Sammy Guevara. The guy is great in the ring, but he looks like he's 12 years old. He reminds me a little bit of TJP, and it's not as impressive as Matt Riddle versus Adam Cole as your opening matchup, and these guys went almost 30 minutes. It was a great match, and I hate even saying that, because if you're a fan of this show, you know I'm not a big guy for Matt Riddle. I'm not a bro for the bro. Alright? I don't dig his no shoes on his feet. I don't dig his carrot top face. I don't dig his I'm gonna steal RVD's 1990s I'm a cool pothead friend of yours gimmick. But then he goes out into the ring and he has a match like he has with Adam Cole. And I can't help but say, God damn, this guy is pretty good. And I understand what the hype is about. But just because I appreciate his professional wrestling style does not mean I have to be all in on his character, which I definitely was not. Sammy Guevara and Cody Rhodes, consequently, is the same thing. I'm a big fan of Cody Rhodes, but seeing him being put to the test by somebody seemingly half his size, and I understand trying to build characters, and Sammy Guevara looked great in his loss to Cody Rhodes in the open of the AEW Dynamite show, but what was more impressive? Are you going to really sit there and tell me that AEW had the better opening match? If you're going to say that, then you're delusional. And you need to just go where the AEW fans are going to congregate and just hate on the world, because you're an idiot if you think that. Cody and Sammy definitely had opening match jitters. You could see that. There were a few botched spots in that opening segment. They were the same in Cole and Riddle, but they were much more noticeable in the Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara match. Following all of that, well, see, wow, this is going to be hard to do, man. We need to come up with a easier way to do this. Maybe it would be more preferential to you guys as well. Maybe I should do one focused AEW review and then one NXT review so that I could really focus in on everything, and then we can do a comparison video maybe for the weekend or something like that. Let me know if you guys would prefer that, because this is kind of hard, man. This is not our usual way to go about doing business. So let's not do comparison back and forth so much. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite. And we talked about Cody and Sammy Guevara. After this matchup, we had, let me just say this. There was this one spot in that match that I really did enjoy. And it was Sammy Guevara was on the outside, and Cody Rhodes was about to deliver a tope suicida through the ropes, and he pulled Brandy Rhodes in front of him for protection, echoing that Randy Macho Man Savage and Miss Elizabeth spot from all of those years ago, which is something we don't really see that much anymore. It was very refreshing to see something like that, and obviously Brandy Rhodes sold it like a champion, and it added to that matchup, and it seemed to me that after that spot is when Cody and Sammy definitely picked it up to another gear and finished that matchup very well, as spotty as it was at the onset. See, that's me being a little bit more fair, because I could focus on AEW and I'm not trying to think back and forth. So then after this, we had Chris Jericho come out with a post-match attack on Cody Rhodes after he gets the win. And Chris Jericho looks like shit, man. I don't care what anybody says. Chris Jericho does not look like Chris Jericho. There's just something off about him, man. His body is just off. He looks like an old dude surrounded by a bunch of young kids, and he shouldn't be the champion. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, he's a name. He's a value. He looks like a bag of trash. He's got to get his game back in gear. I don't know what you're doing, Jericho. Maybe stop losing the championship belt while you're stuffing your face in restaurants, and maybe hit the gym a little harder, bro. Because you don't look anything like a respectable champion. And you're playing this heel villain, which is fine. You got this cool coat with the spikes and your hat and your little Fozzy entrance theme. And I get the whole package and I understand why they're doing it. But I think he looks awful, man. He just looks awful. He beat the snot out of Cody Rhodes throughout the entirety of a commercial break. All of this leading to what would happen at the end of the evening. After that would all finally settle, Chris Jericho goes up the ramp. He introduces himself to everybody. I'm Chris Jericho, and I'm your champion. For some reason saying it with a French accent, and then he walks off. We then get Brandon Cutler versus MJF. Shivani, what did I write here? Oh, right. Tony Schiavone says he wants Brandon Cutler to shut this little prick's mouth in reference to MJF. I couldn't read my own handwriting there. I apologize for that. This match was okay at best. It wasn't the best showcase for Brandon Cutler nor MJF. It seemed as if Brandon Cutler tweaked his leg legit, because the match very abruptly came to an end. MJF gets the win, and then we were in commercial, like before you know it. So it seemed like maybe it wasn't supposed to go down that way, and it might have been scripted exactly that way, and maybe they got me. But I didn't feel like that was anything too special. I was much more entertained by MJF's pre-match promo than the entirety of his match with Brandon Cutler. Jay and Silent Bob were there to plug the reboot. Great to see those guys again. Silent Bob, Kevin Smith looks like he's dying, man. I hope the guy is okay. I know he had a heart attack and everything, but he's so damn skinny, and it just doesn't even really look like him anymore. I just hope for the best for his health. It was great to see those guys around. It felt a little WCW-ish here as well. WWE does go to the well and brings the celebrities and the plugs and all that stuff too, but this just seemed like I was watching an episode of Nitro to me. They get into an altercation with Angelico and that other kid that he's walking around in the neon green with. I forget his name at the moment, and I forgot to write it down. Not that it's of any importance, because nothing happened. They came to confront Jay and Silent Bob. Jay was like, oh, you guys can't even wrestle. Then next thing you know, my friend's Private Party came out to bail out Jay and Silent Bob, and that was the only thing they had for Private Party to do on the opening of AEW, and that is something wrong in this reviewer's opinion. Private Party is awesome, and they should have been somewhere on that show wrestling. But it's okay, I understand. Let's move on. JR talks about the tag team tournament coming up on AEW television, and we get an SCU promo. SCU in the ring are some of the best in the world when it comes to professional wrestling. Christopher Daniels is fantastic. Scorpio Sky is amazing. And Frankie Kazarian, you can't say enough good things about as when it comes to their in-ring performance. But when it comes to SCU as a faction, they're just a little cringy to me. I don't know why. They just make me kind of cringe and wince a little bit. But when they get in the ring, they shut me up because they deliver on all ends. We didn't see anything from SCU in the ring tonight, but we did get this cringy promo. They did come out to the ring, to the entrance ramp to do a promo with Tony Schiavone, and the Lucha Brothers came out, and then a brawl ensues, and they're just trying to hype the tag team tournament here, which is fine. Hangman Page versus Pac. Bastard Pac. This was supposed to be seen at Double or Nothing, and then Pac, for some reason, wasn't able to compete, and now we are finally going to see them face off here. Pac's coming off a win over Kenny Omega. Page coming off a big loss to Chris Jericho for the AEW Championship. And this was a very slow, methodical, very planned out match by Pac. And it was not something that I was expecting. I thought he was going to go much more high octane. I know he scaled it back in his heel persona, but I just kind of felt bored at moments in this matchup. It was maybe a little bit too slowly paced. It just threw the whole thing off. It was a very, very unusual pace. Made it a little boring at times. Pac hits the Black Arrow and then turns it into the Brutalizer submission. Pac wins, and I still don't see what's so special about Hangman Page. I really don't. And I'm sorry if you're a Hangman Page fan. Maybe you live under the Dixie belt or whatever it is, the Carolina belt, the bridal belt, whatever the fuck belt you call it, and you all love cowboys and whatnot. Or maybe you're from Dallas and you just like him because he's a cowboy and he pulls off the modern day cowboy thing very well. But I just don't see what everybody else sees. Everybody probably just loves him because he was a Bullet Club guy, and you can't say anything bad about a Bullet Club guy, but I just don't see what's so special about Hangman Page. Britt Baker joins the commentary team for Nyla Rose versus Rio to crown the first AEW Women's Champion. There is no time limit. It's a very old-fashioned looking title belt. Not really a fan of it. It looks, I don't know, maybe a little too feminine. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just didn't look like a piece of hardware I would be looking to fight for. But then again, I'm not a woman. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But some of you guys might know where I'm coming from. The AEW World Championship looks absolutely beautiful. The Women's Championship, I think, leaves a little bit to be desired. If I'm going to criticize WWE's belts, I have to be fair and criticize belts when I feel the need to do so. So, let's talk about criticizing. And I want everybody to take a spoonful of sugar right now, because I'm not coming off in a disrespectful way. I do not mean anything bad by what I'm about to say. But bear with me. This match was essentially a man versus a woman. Now, stick with me just for a second. Nyla Rose, I understand she went through the whole operation. She was a man that is now a female, which is a thing. And I respect that. I respect her courage and all of the things she did to make herself be who she feels like on the inside so that she can live her best life. Props. More power to you. However, that being said, just because you chop off the meat and two veg, that doesn't mean that your physiology has truly changed. You could take as many hormones as you want. You could put your boobs in and make them D's or C's or whatever makes you comfortable. You still have the physiology and the physical strength and the stature of a human male. Which made this very awkward to watch at times. You know, when you look at Awesome Kong, she's a big girl. But she's clearly very feminine. She moves like a woman. She reacts like a woman. Nyla Rose moves like a Mack truck. Nyla Rose should have wiped the floor with Rio. Now, AEW kind of put themselves in a no-win situation. If you give the belt to Nyla Rose, you are going to come under fire. Because your first woman's champion is only a woman via technicality. And I'm not... Please, don't crucify me for this. I'm being honest, okay? Let's tell the truth here. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying some people, maybe like myself, are going to be rubbed the wrong way by that being the first ever champion, or by her even competing with the women. It just feels wrong to me. Something feels wrong. And I can't even put a tangible reason behind it. I'm watching it and I just feel physically uncomfortable. What does that mean? Can you help me? Maybe you're a psychiatrist and you can leave me a comment and tell me what the hell's wrong with me. It's not a homophobic thing or anything like that. But just watching Nyla Rose fighting Rio just made me feel all kinds of icky. And I'm sorry if that offends you. But I keep it real here. And that's how you know you always get the truth from me. All that now out of the way. You have to take all of that into consideration. And when you do, it may take some of your enjoyment away from this match. And then what happens at the end of this match kind of makes even less sense. And I don't know why it went down this way. But this matchup was a decent matchup between the two competitors. It just was very awkward at times. Like I said, it doesn't really make too much sense for Rio to even come out with the win and be the first ever AEW Women's Champion. She got a nice pop and a nice little reaction from the crowd. She earned the respect of the crowd through this matchup. But I feel like it was a little bit underwhelming. You want to put that up against the NXT women's match. You cannot deny that Candice LeRae and Shayna Baszler was far superior to what happened here. And then at the end, Michael Nakazawa comes out to celebrate with Rio. He ends up getting attacked by Nyla Rose. She almost broke his neck. Now, you show me one other woman that could do something like that, and she almost botched it. But she went and powerbombed Michael Nakazawa, and then she goes to deliver a Death Valley driver to Rio on the ring apron on the outside, on the hardest part of the ring, that edge, but is stopped by Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega came out of nowhere and stopped all this from happening. I don't know why. I really don't. And after this, we had a 6-man tag team main event. Should we take some points off for there being a 6-man? Because we've had so many 6-men? No. We will give AEW a pass. We're not going to go that route. Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz, two buddies of mine from House of Glory, were taking on the Elite, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega in a 6-man tag that just kind of went all over the place, man. Went completely off the rails in a good way. And it was very interesting how this show went off the air. But I would have done it just a little bit differently. I don't understand why Santana and Ortiz are being paired with Chris Jericho. I didn't like that they ruined the surprise of it. But seeing the reaction that they got when they came out tonight, I'm kind of glad that they didn't, because the reaction of the crowd was not anything too special when Santana and Ortiz joined Chris Jericho tonight. Like I said, this match got started and it kind of ended in a very quick way as the Mox would show up and take Kenny Omega all over the arena, end up giving him a double arm DDT through a glass coffee table, which was absolutely ridiculous, and would never return to the match. Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz now had the numbers advantage over the Young Bucks, and that would be the end of it, as they would defeat the Young Bucks with ease. But that's not the story here. The story here then becomes an all-out brawl at the end of the show, and all kinds of crazy faces showing up in crazy places as Jericho, Ortiz, and Santana continued their attack on the Young Bucks. Out would come Cody Rhodes for the save, and then out would come Sammy Guevara, which everybody thought was going to help Cody Rhodes since they ended their match with a handshake. That would only end up with Guevara siding with Jericho. And then we had the emergence of Jack Swagger. Jack, whatever they called him, Hager. And I was like, okay. And now we have this faction: Jericho, Hager, Guevara, Ortiz, and Santana. And this is all wrong. This is all wrong, especially when you have so many people that would have fit the bill much better. Imagine just for a second, this whole thing went down exactly the way it was, but instead of Santana and Ortiz, you could have had them fight Private Party in a tag team match. That would have been nice to see. It would have been great. They should be in the tag team championship tournament, but they're not, as of this moment anyway. I would have put Jericho with his two surprise partners being The Mox and Shawn Spears, two former WWE guys. And then you don't bring in Guevara. You bring in Jake Hager. And now you have 4 former WWE guys. And wait, no, I forgot one guy. You add in Pac. Right, you want a group of 5? There you go. You're going to have Jericho, Pac, Jack Swagger, The Mox, and Shawn Spears. A faction of former WWE guys, which would have immediately got people talking way more than they are with the way we had it given to us last night. But that's just the way I would have done it. They did it this way, so now we have Jericho, Santana, Ortiz, Jake Hager, and Sammy Guevara. I don't know what this faction's all about. I don't know what it's going to do for anybody. I'm not shitting on it just yet. I'm a big fan of factions. I just want to know where it's going, what's going on. And that's what AEW TV is going to be all about going forward. So there we were, from top to bottom. That was the entire show. All of the things you needed to know. All of the things that I did not enjoy about it. And that was our first edition of AEW Dynamite, and it was pretty dynamite. I have my criticisms, but this was a decent foot forward for your first show. But then you turn on NXT. In NXT, we get Adam Cole versus Matt Riddle, which I talked about earlier. It was absolutely fantastic. A back and forth dramatic brawl, not overdone. These guys both were shining brighter than the sun in this matchup. Even in a losing effort, Matt Riddle comes out looking like a superstar. Adam Cole with a great title defense to kick off NXT's 2-hour show weekly, every single week. They came out swinging with their opening segment, and they delivered. And then they delivered on an even bigger level, because just at the conclusion of that match, we had the return of Finn Balor to NXT, the longest reigning NXT champion that there has ever been. One of the most popular NXT superstars there ever was. He went to the main roster and he was fucking ruined. And now he has come home to where he is respected, where he will be booked correctly, and he's got his eyes set on that NXT championship. And Adam Cole versus Finn Balor is a match that I'm already salivating over. I had no idea we were even going to come close to something like this coming our way. It's already taken a whole big step in NXT's favor. Think about the casual viewer. You're watching NXT, you don't know what it's all about, but you know Finn Balor because you've been watching Raw and SmackDown. And now you're like, oh man, I'm going to be watching this too now. I love Finn Balor. Let's see what he can do over here with these guys. Definitely has a bigger impact than Jake Hager. We were introduced to the Velveteen Dream. He came out surrounded by a bunch of beauties, and he was laid out on a purple couch, and he gave a long, somewhat kind of boring promo. If I were to pinpoint maybe the one thing on this show that I didn't enjoy, maybe it was that. He came out to challenge Roderick Strong for a rematch for the North American Championship, which he just lost to him, and it was a little bit underwhelming. I thought he could have made it a little bit more entertaining. The Dream doesn't usually disappoint me, but here just seemed to drag on a little long. He maybe could have just trimmed it up and said what he had to say and get on out of here and leave everybody intrigued. But instead, by the time he got to the end, I was just like, all right, are you done yet? Because, let's move this thing along. Io Shirai versus Mia Yim. This match, to me, was better than both of the other matches. Candice LeRae And Shayna Baszler tore it down on this episode, but I really, really enjoyed Io Shirai versus Mia Yim. It was far superior than the AEW Women's Championship matchup. I love the new look Io Shirai. I love her new attitude, the heel persona, the makeup, the outfit. Like, she's just absolutely perfect, man. And Mia Yim was a perfect opponent for her on this night. Mia Yim is tough as nails. She takes no shit, and she doesn't care about throwing punches and getting hit and getting hurt. And she went out there, and these girls, both of them, definitely delivered in a tremendous, tremendous matchup. Io is just awesome, and she's absolutely terrifying. This maybe was Mia Yim's best match since coming to the WWE. I was very impressed here. They had a nice amount of match time, very hard-fought matchup, but Io Shirai comes out with the win and remains the queen of the sky. We had a promo for Tegan Nox, who's coming back, hyping up the return of Tegan Nox. She was fantastic in the Mae Young Classic, one of my early favorites. Very, very familiar with the NXT faithful, and looks like she's going to be coming back sooner than later. Johnny Gargano versus Shane Thorne. This match took place, and I said, here we go. This is going to be the first thing wrong with tonight's episode. And then Shane Thorne shut me up. Listen, I immediately thought this was going to be just a Johnny Gargano feature match, going to get him back on the winning track. Shane Thorne was just going to job out to Johnny Wrestling. That certainly was not the case. Shane Thorne made the most of this opportunity that was given to him. He looked amazing in this match. Gargano made him look like a legitimate force to be reckoned with on the NXT roster, and this guy was just a fixture in the tag team division. And he's been gone for so long, and he comes out of nowhere, and he absolutely killed it. Killed it with Johnny Gargano. A fantastic match. It really, really was. Johnny Gargano with the win, as many of us would have assumed, but there were many occasions during this matchup where I actually wasn't sure. And Shane Thorne definitely was impressive in this outing, and I look forward to seeing what he's going to be bringing to NXT in the future as well. Candice LeRae versus Shayna Baszler, NXT Women's title match. Great matchup. Candice LeRae almost able to pull off the big upset over the Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler, but that was not the case as she ended up tapping out, as most women do. NXT's Women's Champion still is Shayna Baszler. She is on her way to becoming the most dominant, maybe she already is, the most badass Women's Champion NXT will ever have. I am far more frightened of Shayna Baszler than I am of Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax or even Awesome Kong. Shayna Baszler is a terrifying woman. She is just something to be afraid of, man. Those eyes alone are just absolutely terrifying. And I would not want to find myself across the ring from her. This was a great, great matchup. And we move on now to the Pete Dunne versus Danny Burch. And again, here I am going, we probably don't really need to be seeing this matchup, but, they got to put together a card, right? So we got to have matches. I'd much rather have matches than stupid segments like we get on the main roster. And Pete Dunne is fantastic. Danny Burch is great. And they put on a great match. This wasn't even so much of a match as this was just a brawl. This was almost like a straight-out British-style street fight, and these guys were just killing each other, throwing haymaker after haymaker. Pete Dunne with his signature, I'm going to break every one of your fingers thing, which I'm not really a big fan of, but he definitely made it work to his advantage tonight, and he ends this thing by hitting Danny Burch with the bitter end, one of my favorite finishers of the new generation that has come up. And again, this win in this seemingly non-important matchup was not the story, which is the most important thing you can do. When you have a random match like this, you have Pete Dunne celebrating at the end, the lights go out, and he gets blindsided by Damian Priest. My new favorite guy, by the way. Just based off of his presentation, his entrance music, his Titantron, everything about this guy screams megastar. And I absolutely love Damian Priest. Seeing him set his target on Pete Dunne means we are going to see them facing off probably at a takeover somewhere, and that is going to be a match that you do not want to miss. Damian Priest is fantastic. We've already talked millions of times on this channel about just how great of a professional wrestler Pete Dunne is, and that's going to be something special to see. Backstage, we had Adam Cole and the Undisputed all kind of arguing about Finn Balor coming back, and then the captain, the heavyweight champion, gets his team back on track, telling them, listen, we need to worry about keeping the prophecy fulfilled. That is what is important tonight. Don't worry about Finn. Just focus on your match. And then we would go to the main event of the evening, the Street Profits versus the Undisputed Red Dragon, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. And this match was great as well. One of the best tag team matches I have seen in the whole entire year thus far. It was very entertaining. Just as entertaining as the Street Profits entrance with Wale. Right? This was kind of cool. He was coming out there, getting everybody hyped, getting the crowd doing the whole Street Profits thing. Let me tell you this, the red Solo Cup in the audience, like that's a great visual, man. That is a great visual. It reminds me a lot of Al Snow with the head. When ECW fans all had the head and it was just a sea of white heads. Now we have the sea of red cups. Everybody's waiting for their drink. Partying with the Street Profits. I dig it, man. The whole entrance with Wale also reminded me of something else from back in the day, and it was not anywhere near as cool as Al Snow, but it kind of took me back to those Men on a Mission days. Remember Men on a Mission? Mabel and Mo and Asuka? Right? Wale was Asuka tonight. And the Street Profits were the Men on a Mission. I'm sorry for making you guys think that, but I thought it, so I have to share it with you guys because I can't keep things to myself like that. I'm sitting there and I'm going, this is 2019 Men on a Mission, but it's NXT and it's Wale. I don't know what that means because hip hop to me just sucks now. We've talked about this on this channel before, so I'm not in with the in crowd in the hip hop society anymore, and I don't know or care too much what a Wale is, but he got the crowd hype, and that was his only purpose, and it didn't take away from the show, even though it made me think of Men on a Mission. The Profits and Red Dragon, NXT Tag Team titles, great matchup. Like I said, people were probably shocked. People that are aware of the Street Profits because of their presence on Raw and SmackDown as of late, they are probably in shock that the Street Profits are actually this good. And they probably can't believe it. And now they're probably like all of us thinking, why are they only backstage on the main roster show when they could wrestle like this? So that's a question that nobody will ever be able to answer. The Undisputed steal this one. However, thanks to the interference of Roderick Strong and the high-low combination being executed on Dawkins, gets Fish and O'Reilly the win. And again, this match was not the story, because we didn't go off the air just celebrating Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish's win. Adam Cole came out to join the festivities and was followed by Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa making his return to NXT. Once again, something that people that have been watching for years are going to freak out over. He locked his eyes on Goldie. He fixed his stare right on his ex-girl and wouldn't remove that contact while he circled Adam Cole like a shark in the water. And then he locked eyes with the champ, and we said goodbye from Full Sail, looking forward to next week for both shows. For both shows. Yeah, I was a little bit maybe harder on AEW, but that's because they gave me reason to be hard on them. And that's not a sexual thing, and it sounds gross, but that's not what I meant. And I want to take another minute to apologize to any of you guys that don't agree or that are pissed off about what I said about Nyla Rose. I have nothing against her. It's just watching her makes me feel uncomfortable while she's wrestling a girl that weighs about as much as a bamboo stick. All right, it's not believable. I think it hurts the industry more than it helps the industry. And like I said, it's a rock and a hard place. Like, because what do? You don't want to book Nyla Rose against the men because she's a female. She considers herself a female. She looks, walks, acts, and like a female. She's got the parts of a female, so she wants to wrestle the females. But she still, she doesn't look like a big girl. She looks like a man in drag. And I'm sorry if that offends you, but it's the truth. And it makes it uncomfortable for me to watch a man in drag beating up a little girl. I don't know how else I could say it to you without being offensive. And like I said, I'm sorry if that offends you. That's the hot topic on this show. Of all the things that I brought up, that is the one thing that is probably the most divisive of all the things I've said. But if you, like I said at the beginning of this thing, if you're not just an AEW dickhead fan that's going to shit all over me because I had some negative things to say about your show, you will be honest with yourself and say those exact same things. And you will also remember that at the start of this show, I said AEW is going to improve with time. It's almost unfair to compare it to a show that has years of history behind it that they can pull from and get a fan reaction that will dwarf anything AEW can come up with. The perception of the crowds on TV, both crowds were pretty even, but the NXT crowd were on their feet by 5 minutes into this show. You can't say the same for AEW. The crowd was definitely into it, but we had people at the NXT Full Sail Arena jumping around. So excited, and it just gives it a better feel and a better presentation. If you're honest with yourself, you know both of these shows were very good, but NXT wins week 1. They came out with a mini NXT takeover. AEW didn't book a mini all-in. They didn't book it like a major show. They just booked a TV show. And with the exception of the final segment and the formation of a new random faction, there really isn't much to talk about as far as AEW is concerned. 2 fantastic shows. The war is full underway. And now you guys are free to deliver your hammers upon me, because I know some of you are probably frothing at the bit to call me some sort of a name or say something about how I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm so negative and not negative. I'm truthful. And I speak my mind and I say my feelings. And if you agree with me, you agree. If you don't, well, we can agree to disagree. And that's okay. Because the family we're growing here, by the day, you're allowed to have your own opinion. Just be respectful. That's all I ask. And I have to say that on this video. Because if you watch my Everything Wrong with the Wednesday Night War video that went up earlier this week, you know that the worst thing about this is going to be most of you fans. And I say most of you because a lot of you are going to be just like me, and we're just going to sit back and enjoy most wrestling. We're going to do the best wrestling we've seen. And then there are going to be some of you that are going to be just assholes about it. You can be an asshole all you want. That's what the block and the delete button's for. So feel free to get it out if you want. It ain't going to make much of a difference to me. Thank you guys for checking out this episode. I'm actually, now that we're at the end, I know only my hardcore, my true fans are sitting here still watching me at 43 minutes in. And I want to tell you guys, this show made me nervous. This show made me nervous. For the exact reason that happened. I knew that I was going to be trying to do something different and it just wasn't going to work, man. I just kind of knew. And I got lost a little bit in the open, and I don't know if this is going to be the way to go forward. So I want your real feedback on this. If you're listening to us right now at the 44th minute, let me know in the comments section if you would rather me do separate reviews. And then maybe we can go back and pinpoint the head-to-head in a later episode. If that's alright. I mean, I didn't want to overload you guys with 2 more shows than you're used to getting. But if you're up for it, I'll be up for it. And we'll make it work. We'll make it work. This is a first for us too. We've never done a dual review like this before. We got to work out our kinks as well. And you guys as loyal members of the club, I appreciate your feedback, and I want to know what you think. So let me know how you think we should proceed going forward. If you don't think this was too much of a train wreck, maybe we'll just leave it as is, and I'll try to formulate something else out of it. I don't know. But I'm looking to you guys. Let me know what you guys think we should do from this moment on. My name, ladies and gentlemen, is Nick Nightmare. This is the team, Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball. The most important member of the team, as always, is each and every one of you fuckers out there. And now is the time for you to hit that subscribe button if you are not already one of the 1,900 plus that know that when you want your wrestling news and reviews bullshit free and full of truth and entertainment, that Sledgehammer TV is the place to be. Don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoyed anything that we said or did here on the show today. Even if you hate me for all of my comments, just hit the like button for me, because that helps this video get out there. And then, of course, share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if they need to know everything that was wrong with the Wednesday Night War. Don't forget to check out everything else on this channel, like Everything Wrong with the Wednesday Night War. Already, before it began, I gave you a list of stuff, and if you missed it, that video's up there live on the channel right now. The Monday Night Raw and SmackDown review will be coming, but the Monday Night Raw review is up there for your viewing pleasure, talking about the disgusting kiss from Bobby Lashley and Lana that made me want to throw up all over myself and makes me never want to buy another box of Milk Duds in my life. If you missed that, go check it out. I'll leave the link in the annotation up above. Don't forget to be here Friday for our SmackDown live review following the show. Have a great weekend if I don't see you tomorrow, and make sure you are here all next week as we get set for week number 2 as the new era of wrestling is well underway. That, my friends, is going to do it, and we are out of here. And we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Boom!